So, hey everybody, this is a brand new copy of the project template. This should be exactly how you guys see it. I'm going to be stepping through some of the tools that are in here that you can use for your project. So in here we've got actually this. I want to make sure that's how you guys probably see it. So this, just the way that the folder hierarchy is set up, has the ASCAR folder is more of the back end gameplay stuff that we've pre-built for the project. The scenes folder has the hub scene stuff from IND2, which was for them specifically. For us, we're only caring about the hub scene. The student name folder is where your student scene is. And then finally, the tools folder has a bunch of stuff that you can use to build your project. I'm going to switch my view back to one column. I very much enjoy seeing files at the same area that folders are. The reason why that is good for what I'm doing anyways, just to show you guys real quick, if you add like a terrain, you'll see that the terrain is in the scene, but there's actually an asset that it creates in the assets folder down here. So that's your terrain that it generated, but it put it in the default folder. You wouldn't see that without clicking on the assets folder. If I switch it to one column, you see it right outside of it. And so that's why I like to use this view whenever I'm working on stuff. And get rid of that. Get rid of this. Okay. Alrighty, so I'm going to pop open the hub scene. I'm going to double click on it because untitled I don't need. I'm not going to open this scene additive. I'm just going to jump to hub. Don't save that. And this will be the default hub scene. At the bottom is the game window. Top is the scene window. I can then organize this if I want to see more of this. So this is our hub scene. The hub scene's got some examples of things that the project has or can be done with the project. I'm going to go ahead and maximize and hit play. So this is the hub scene. The hub scene has in it an objective. So if you want to see, you can walk over here and it says collect 4 scrap metal from the hub. Scrap metal is an object that is placed in here. And so you can actually use your Gravinol to move these objects around and complete this objective just to see what that's like to collect all the items and finish something. There's an example of like a breakaway floor here. So if you jump on it, it'll crash through. There's a whole tunnel underneath. Everything in the hub scene is has materials to display like how to do your structure for static objects, dynamic objects. The floor is orange because it's dynamic, static for these other ones. It's not that they're brown because it's wood. It's brown because it's, static. If you run to the end of here, there's actually an elevator in the hub scene that'll take you from the bottom up to the top. And when you get up to the top, you can actually run out here, and there's like another one of the pickups over there in the corner. Spoiler alert, at the very top of here, there's a cave in the back. Our caves use our transition system tool, which allows you to travel from one point to another. So that's a cave entrance that's in the bottom of the tunnels that we saw earlier. So if I run out through here, I can go all the way back up to the top, get that other piece. There's the destroyed floor, and we're back up to the top. So all that winds through, and it's just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you can create. The forward direction that I'm looking right now is where the student scene loads. Behind me is where experiments load. So everything that you're building for your student scene will be directly in front. I'm going to go ahead and load that up. So I'm going to go to student name, right click on student, open scene additive, and that's going to load it next to the hub scene. So this is the hub scene dropdown, student scene dropdown. The student scene has a map projector in it for projecting your student map down. It has a time estimator, which is checking for setup volumes, and then it gives you a playable estimate of the entire gameplay of your running through your game or whatever. The zone message volume displays the level name up on the minimap. So if you don't want it to say your name on the minimap, you can change this. This is right now a sphere, but you can totally remove the sphere and make it a box if you want to, as they're just different components. As long as it's a trigger volume, you can just link that up there. The zone volume should be placed where you want like the new zone to be activated. So like you can do it at the very beginning of your level if you want it to be like, hey, as soon as I pass through this, we're now in the other scene. The hub has its own. So if I switch to the hub scene and look for zone message volume, that's where that one is. So you want to make sure that yours is activated after you leave that volume to display where we are. So if I make this big enough, like right here, that'll totally cover that. And we can call this tools overview, because that's what our level is. In the student scene, there's also this level geo empty game object. Underneath that is the floor. This floor is so that when we want to put something in the projector, right now it has nothing, but if I were to select, I don't know, like one of these other materials, the player start, everything would be projected on with player start. That's where the player starts. If you don't want to see the projector while you're working, you can just toggle it off so that it's not in your way. And then the player size here. Player size is a general height and width of the player in their what's called a T-pose. T-pose is when the arms are out to the side and the legs are straight down. So that's about the size of that. So you can use this as a gauge for how tall or small the player is while you're building things. You can drag that object around and place it wherever you need it to be. This is so that you do not move the player to the location to then check the height and width and everything. That's what that is for. There is also an out of bounds damage volume that's below the entire world, so that if your player decides to end it and just jump into the nothing, that's the nothing, and it immediately gives them 100 damage and sends them to the checkpoint that they had stored. So just in case you're wondering what that big box is below your level. I just double clicked on the player size to reorient my view. It zoomed into that. It reset up all the camera positional, like how the frustum set up and whatnot. When I'm holding right mouse down and using WASD to pivot my camera around, or holding shift, it's actually changing just the location. But if you use the scroll wheel to zoom, that is actually modifying how the camera is rendering stuff. So if you ever go too close, it starts like cutting through things. You can then just double click on an object and it'll fix it. Go back to normal. I'm going to set the student scene as active and then select objects in here. Something that, see if I can get it to show up. If I add an object in here, the hub scene is being lit by light probes. So let's do like a cube. So I don't see it right now. I may have mine disabled. Let's find out. Do I have it disabled? Mine's currently enabled. It'll show up eventually. So it's trying to finish whatever it's doing down there. But you probably will see, and I don't know why I don't see it yet. You will probably see a line that's pointing out to the object that you have selected. I just don't know why I'm not seeing it yet. Come on, show me. I'll go to the actual cluster of objects if I need to, just to demonstrate what it looks like. But there's going to be a circle and a line that's pointing to an object where the hub scene is trying to light it. It's not going to do it right now. If you ever see it get stuck at a lighting job, you can go to Window, Lighting, Settings. So right now it's trying to auto-generate. I can uncheck that and just say Generate Lighting. But finish. Finish what you were doing. This is trying to generate for the student scene. And here, cancel. Let's just clear the data on that one. Student scene I don't want to generate, but hub scene is generated. Anyways, in the hub scene there is, let's see if we can find it, the light probe group. So the light probe group looks like a bunch of little yellow dots. If you see these dots reach out and try to touch one of your objects, you can turn them off by going to Gizmos and scroll down and just uncheck light probe group, and then we won't see those anymore. So in case you do see that happening. Okay. The student scene by default has some different like lighting and effects settings. One of the things that makes it difficult to see what's going on is you can turn off scene lighting, so I just see unlit objects, but also you can go into right here, the little picture frame. You might have fog enabled. I disable mine. Fog makes things in the distance not render at full detail, so that's only in the scene view, that you're not changing it in the game. It's just disabling it there. Okay, so in here, now that we have the player set, I want to jump through a couple of the tools. Under the tools folder, we have materials, the transition system, checkpoints, damage volumes, pickups, etc. All of these things can be used in different ways to make your level a reality. The cave that we saw earlier is the transition system. Transition system should be used for ladders because we don't have a climbing system, or if you wanted like an entire room in your level to burst into flames, and by burning down that room, it changes the gameplay of that area. So if you had like this huge shift in gameplay because of an event that happened, that's when you would want to use the transition system. It is not to be used as a teleporter. If you are not comfortable with scripting a door and you decide to use the transition system to go into a door, that is incorrect. You need to make sure that the door functionally opens when you interact with it, and you can travel through your level without ever fading to black. The fade to black is only for massive changes or like ladders or something. To use the transition system, I'll go ahead and use it in the way that we should. Really quickly, I'm going to set student as active, and I'm going to build a level blocking mesh. At the very top, level blocking meshes, let's pop that open. I'm going to do cube, that put it right into my student scene, holding control to snap it to the grid. There's a dot here if you want to scale it through that. I scale through the actual tool. Holding control to snap this out and be like, here's my wall. So if I was building a wall, this would be a structure. So I'm going to add the material for it to set it as that. Under tools, materials, let's drag over structure B for the darker walls and stuff. Put that right there. Now we have the material for that. Then I'm going to put another thing on top of it. It's going to be a ladder. The ladders are going to be interactive, so I'm going to use the static material. So let's go ahead and add another cube. Holding control, drag it down, and then let's make this a little more ladder shaped. Look up like that. There you go. Maybe it goes a little higher. You can tilt it if you want. So this will be our ladder. I'm going to drag dynamic to this one. And then we need something that's static. So at the very top here, I will put, let's do another, actually I'm going to make this a different color. I can't see it right now. Boink, there we go. So each one of the materials says scraps to continually remind you of the game that you're working on. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this wall just to demonstrate something. I'm going to hold V, which then jumps to the corners to then snap to a corner. Holding control to move it down one. And then I'm going to use scale to modify this. You're going to notice that the other wall is modifying at the same time. This is destroying the UVs on the other one. They're both the same object. They're both generated from the same thing. So if you need them to be separate, you should refresh them so that it becomes its own thing. So if I go to level blocking meshes and do refresh mesh at the bottom, it generated that new one, but it's removed the old one. The old one technically still exists, we just don't see the mesh for it. So if you select that object, you can then refresh this while it's selected to come back. There's something else I'll show you right after this that will help if you have lots of these objects. So there's the ceiling I'm going to climb up to, the ladder that I'm going to climb. Let's go ahead and put a an object. This will just be our generic crate. We'll rotate it, you know. And then I'm going to say that this is a static crate. So I'm going to put the static object thing on it. It's a brown color. Let's go ahead and set hub as active so we can see all that. There you go. So these I'm going to now switch. I'm going to change this wall here back to black. And that one's right there. That one's static. This one's dynamic. Let's go ahead and drag the I'm going to go to the transition system, and we'll pull out from prefabs. The only thing you need is transition point. Transition system already exists in the hub scene. I probably shouldn't have it in this folder, but the only one you need is point. You drag that out, put it in front of the ladder. This volume is the trigger volume for where the player is going to stand. This transition point has a little icon for it. Icons can be set on the inspector by just clicking over here in the left-hand corner, and then you can pick one. So if you'd like to see the names of objects floating around, you can definitely do that. Because I added the transition point while the hub was active, it went up here. I'm going to drag this back down into my student scene. And then for the transition point, the way that they work, the only thing that you need to care about is the exit point and interact required. You do not need to check is here, is exit, or change any of old position, as they are handled by a different system. So if you ever see your points malfunction, most likely these things were modified. So I'm going to duplicate this point, hold control to move this up here, and then over to the top. So one of these is the enter, and one's the exit. This is going to be the ladder bottom, I guess, and then the other one will be ladder top. So my ladder bottom needs ladder top as its exit point. It's going to require me to press E, so I'm going to select interact required. Ladder top is going to send me back to bottom. Drag that in there, select interact required. Now my ladder is set up. If I want to reuse this ladder anywhere, I can make an empty game object. Let's go ahead and set student as active. If I make an empty game object, I can then hold V to snap this to the corner of the ladder. I'll call this ladder system. And then I can put ladder top, ladder bottom, under ladder system, as well as this object, the actual ladder. And now I have one object that has all the pieces that I need to make this work. So then I could, if I want to, move this over to the corner, then duplicate it and move it over. And now I have two functioning ladders that are next to each other that I can go up and down on. So those are there. Let's go ahead and test that out. Game, play. So here we are. Run forward. There's the player size, so we can run up to and be like, this is, it's like T-pose player size. If I run up to this one, it says ladder bottom, press E to interact. If I press E, it moves me to the top of the ladder. If I go to the other one, ladder top, let's head to bottom, ladder bottom. So it knows which one it was connected to. We were able to move between the 2 points, and there's that. So it's bright orange to show me that it's interactive, and it stands out from everything else, so I know to travel to that. So that is that system. Right now, as you can see, the pivot point on this player start icon is shifted because the rotation is shifted. If you set this to center, actually that one doesn't do what I wanted to. Center actually moves it to the center of the object. The pivot point is at the very bottom. If I change this from local to global, now it shows me with no rotation. Global up here, it says all handles are in global rotation. Global rotation is not rotated, so that's why it switches to a normal kind of like Z being forward. It's positive Z is forward, X for right and left, Y is up and down. If I switch this from global back to local, then it goes back to the little sideways thing. So just to show you guys that is there, I'm going to move them out of the way. Make sure this is on pivot if you want to know where your pivot points are. By changing this to center, it doesn't change your pivot point. That just changes the tool. Okay, so ladders, a box. Moving on from transitions, I'm going to put a checkpoint at the top of this. So in student, actually I'll go ahead and just drag this into student. Checkpoints here, it spawned at this side. I'm going to drag it to the top. I'm holding V to snap still. I'm going to put this at the very top, and it's going to take up like where this box is kind of, but it's going to be next to the box. So if I run up to the top of this and I run next to this box, it's going to set a checkpoint. So let's go ahead and hit play. There's a damage volume at the very bottom of the level. So if I jump off the level after I hit this, I'll return there. So ladder top, checkpoint has been reached. Now let's run off the edge. And returns me right on top where I had originally saved my location. Then I can run back down to the bottom. So there's checkpoint, damage volume at the bottom, which caused damage to the player when I entered it. I can show you that real quick. So out of bounds damage volume. Base damage is how much damage you want it to do, and damage interval is how often. If I had this set as 1, it'd be 1 second, so I'd have to wait a second for 100 damage. That's not really as instantaneous as I would like it to be. So that's damage volumes. Pickups. So the example pickup is just an example of how our pickup system works. You can totally use this and just, drop one down. And then the pickup, it looks like a pile of gold stuff. If you look under example pickup, these are what the pile looks like. So you can just pull these out if you want to change it to something else. Example pickup, the name of the object is not the name of the pickup. The pickup's name is type name. So you can change this from item to goods, and the icon needs to be set to something. If you come in here and search for icon, we only have a couple. Minimap's not it, but pickup icon A, B, C, or unknown. These all will fit in the UI correctly. If you import an icon, they need to be rescaled to these sizes. Otherwise, it's going to kind of blow outside of it. So I'm going to change it to the money icon. It's going to be called goods, and that's my example pickup. So if I hit play, you'll see a new icon has shown up on my inventory. It is currently unknown because on example pickup is unknown is checked. If I were to uncheck that, it would not be question marks. And if I run over to that item, so there we are, pick it up. It now goes into my inventory. It says goods is now 1 out of 1. So that is up there. Cool. All right. Going back over to tools. So that's the pickup. Something else we have is a message volume. So like the ladders already have a message that pops up that tells you to press E. I could put a message volume down and put it right in front of the level, and then have the player be told something. So like on here on the message volume, you have a couple different variables that actually have descriptions on it so that you know what it is that it's doing. Who, what said it. So who's sending the message. If you don't want to see a name on it, you can just clear that field. There's countless times where I've seen messages come up that say sender. That's because the variables weren't changed. So if you want someone to say it, put their name in it. I'll say Scrapper. What is being said, the message you want to deliver. Oh boy, 2 ladders. How long do you want this message to display? How long do I need for oh boy, 2 ladders to sit on the screen? 1 second, let's say 2. 2 seconds is fine. So this you can drag this around to set it from anywhere from 1 to 10. You shouldn't be changing the message time to be anything outside of that. Then does it vanish forever after being displayed? The only time I want this player to say, oh boy, 2 ladders is when I step into the volume. I want it to go away after that. So I'm going to select only once. When I select only once, it'll delete that message so that it doesn't come back again. So that's the volume. Got to keep making sure it's in the right scene. So now if I hit play, run forward, it's going to say, oh boy, 2 ladders. and then I can walk up to each one and do things. When I run back through, it doesn't say the message again because I said only once, and it deleted the object. All right, so objective volumes. In the island experiment, you're going to get your first step into actually setting one of these up, but this video I'm going to step through just the basics of creating one of these. So I have ladders. I have something where he says, oh boy, 2 ladders. So let's make an objective about ladders. So this volume right here is going to be, oh boy, 2 ladders. Then immediately afterwards, I'm going to create an objective for getting on top of this platform. So this is a trigger volume just like the rest of them, but this volume tells our objective list to make an objective. The way that the objective system works is all of you have an objective number 1, so I can't have you create them and say objective 1 because you all have one. So they're created with a nickname instead. So the identifier is going to be the nickname you want to give to your objective. So if ours is about climbing a ladder and it's for the tools scene, I'm going to say tools ladder, and that's going to be the identifier for this first objective. The actual objective is going to say climb to the top. The needed tag, who is going to activate this objective? So you can have it to where, like, if you threw a fizz object through something, it activated an objective. Or by default, the player steps through and activates this. The thing at the very bottom says activate an objective volume complete after this thing's creation. This only takes a game object, so as soon as I pass through this volume, if you want something else to appear, like a different object or an objective volume or something like that, you can pass it into this. This is here to make sure that you don't have something complete before it's been created. So this right now creates it. I'm going to put the completion one at the very top here. Drag this over, hold V to snap corners. There we go. So here's the complete. I'm going to put it at the top right before I get to this objective. Make it bigger. Definitely want to make sure that they can't just like jump at the wall and complete it. It's like run underneath it and be like, I did it. Smash head into it. So there's complete. Complete has identifier name as well. The name in this one is for the message that comes up. So if you wanted to say like something different besides the original objective, you can change it. But the identifier has to be the same. So create tools ladder, copy that, complete tools ladder. The original one was climb to the top. So when I get to this one, I could say like climbed to the top. And that'll send a different message out. The person that can activate it is still going to be the player. In create, I'm going to drag my complete into that. I cannot complete this until I have created the original one. So that's how that one is set up. If I go ahead and hit play. Okay, there's no objective there yet. The first thing is going to be hitting this message, oh boy, 2 ladders. Then new objective, climb to the top. It is populated into our little quest list of sort. Then I can go over here to the ladder, pop up, and then climb to the top. Although the ladder top is currently in the way of the message, so it didn't pop up, it did change it to green to show that I finished it. So I could go over here and change like ladder top. Let's make this closer to here. And this one over here. And if I made that a prefab, that would have modified both of them. It would have been a smarter way to do that. And let's move this back here-ish. So I have to walk forward first. Yeah. All the way forward. There you go. Play. Then I have one more thing to cover in here, and then that'll be the end of my tools overview. So ladder top, run back up here. Ladder top still being displayed. That's okay. There's a message that comes up. I will go into that more as I do other demonstrations. The last piece to this puzzle is the setup volume, which I think seems to be hard to understand for some reason, but it's really not. So the setup volumes, when I place one in, is a big green box. This big green box should go around things that you want to be a gameplay setup. So the thing that we have right now is climbing up these ladders. I don't have to be, I don't have to set this up perfect. I just want it to be close. So this thing is going to be the very first setup in the level. So at the top where it says setup volume, you can totally change it to like what it is, like setup 1, so that you don't lose track of how many setups you have. On this object, yes, it is a cube and it has a mesh render and it has a trigger volume. But right here at the very bottom is the actual script for the setup volume. So setup number can be anywhere from 1 to 60. I've never had someone have 60 setup volumes, but if you got that detailed with it for some reason, it goes up to that. The very first setup must be 1. It can't be 0 or -1. Also, you cannot have duplicates of setup volumes. You can't have multiple setup number 1. So if you don't change the setup number, you will have issues with the time estimate. In the message body, it says insert user story here. In the assignment instructions for milestone 1, we covered what a user story is. A user story would be from the perspective of the player. As the player, what are they doing? I will interact with the ladder, allowing me to climb to the platform, which rewards me with a checkpoint, I guess. That's going to be my first setup. How long did that setup take? If you've ever counted a second out, it's much longer than you think. We always think that seconds are so fast. It's the milliseconds that are the fast ones. So if you've ever opened a door before, try opening a door while counting 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Doors don't take 12 seconds to open unless you're in Resident Evil or something and you're waiting for a cutscene to stop loading a different room. So this probably only going to take me a second, so I'm going to leave it as a second. Known issues with this setup? Nothing. If I put an issue, like I can say no issues. I don't have to put that there, but I just want it to display. So that's there. That's my first setup. My second setup, I'm going to duplicate this and move it over here. I'll change this to, I don't know, other setup. Obviously fill it out. Missing setup. Sad face. This setup is going to take 3 seconds because it's missing for some reason. So I have this saved as setup 1 because I want to demonstrate the issue. Actually, let's say setup 2 first, and then I'll go back and change it. And this will be the last thing I wanted to cover for this. So setup 1 and 2 are in here. If I set hub as active and hit play, we're going to see the green boxes in the distance. If I hit escape, I will get setup 1 and setup 2 in here, and I can click on it, and it teleports the player to that location. So now I can work on that. Setup 1, you see the message at the bottom. As a player, I will need to interact with the ladder, allowing me to climb the platform, yada, yada, yada. Climb to the top. It takes 1 second. It's all there. The other one's out there in the distance, so I can now travel to the second one and get setup 2's information. Setup 2, 3 seconds, other setup. In the pause menu, you see estimated playtime. So setup 1 is the starting position. It starts calculating from your first setup. So what is the first thing gameplay-wise that the player needs to do in order to continue with your level? And whatever you put in there for the estimation, it calculates that as well. The player takes about, or the player's speed is like 6. So it's using player's speed and the time frame it takes to run between point to point to calculate the estimation. It's just a straight line from one to the other. It doesn't do curves or anything like that. So just be aware of that. The estimate is an estimate. If I change this and say it wasn't setup 2, this was setup 1 as well, because maybe I decided setup 1 was going to say start of level, which is not how they should be used. Now if I go in here, I'm going to just demonstrate there's a null reference exception at the bottom that a lot of people will see where it's calculating every frame, and it's like time estimator says you have a problem. You do, because you didn't number them properly. Also, if I change, let's say I have setup 1 and setup 2, and then I duplicate setup 2, and say there's another setup 2, and then I duplicate that one again, and we'll make setup number 3. So I have 1, 2, 2, and 3. If I jump back in here, I still have a null reference. If I open this up, it says 1, 2. I have 2 3s displaying, even though I have 2 numbered 2s. The estimated playtime is now maniacally calculating up until the end of days. This is just a bug that happens because you had 2 duplicate numbers in your volumes. So the things that you can mess up are you forget that you needed one of the numbers and you skip one, so you have 1 and 3, or you duplicated them, 1 and 1, or 2 and 2. And those are the different errors you will see. If you ever get a null reference exception from the time estimator, those are the reasons why. Okay, so that is setup volumes. So all these tools can be used while you're working to make your level as awesome as you can make it for the game that you're currently working on. That is the end of this recording, and I will also be doing another one for projecting your map out and building a project. But these are all the tools. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope that that was insightful.